BBC Radio 5 Live is the BBC's national radio service that specialises in live BBC news, phone-ins, interviews and sports commentaries. It is the principal radio station covering sport in the United Kingdom, broadcasting virtually all major sports events staged in the UK or involving British competitors. Radio 5 Live was launched in March 1994 as a repositioning of the original Radio 5, which was launched on August 27, 1990. It is transmitted via analogue radio in AM on medium wave 693 and 909 kHz and digitally via digital radio, television and via an internet stream. Due to rights restrictions, coverage of some events is not available online or is restricted to UK addresses. The station broadcasts from Media City UK in Salford and is a department of the BBC North Division. The station controller is Jonathan Wall. History. The success of Radio 4 News FM during the First Gulf War led the BBC to propose the launch of a rolling news service. After many arguments, both internal and external, the BBC closed their fifth radio network, BBC Radio 5, and replaced the old service's educational and children's programmes with a new news service, whilst retaining the sports programmes. The new BBC Radio 5 Live began its 24-hour service at 5 a.m. on Monday 28 March 1994. The first voice on air, Jane Garvey, later went on to co-present the breakfast and drive time shows with Peter Allen. The Times described the launch as slipping smoothly and confidently into a routine of informative banter, and the Scotsman as professionalism at its slickest. The news of the first day was dominated by the fatal stabbing at Hall Garth School in Cleveland, the first of many major incidents which the network covered live as they unfolded. The tone of the channel, engaging and more relaxed than contemporary BBC output, was the key to the channel's success and set the model for other BBC news services later in the decade. The first audiences were some 4 million, with a record audience of 6.25 million. Among the key editorial staff involved in the design of programme formats and recruitment of staff for the new station were Sarah Nathan, later editor of Channel 4 News, and Tim Luckhurst, later editor of the Scotsman newspaper and currently Professor of Journalism at the University of Kent. In 2000, the station was rebranded with a new logo which would remain with the station for another 7 years. In addition, on February 2, 2002 a companion station, BBC Radio 5 Live Sports Extra, was launched as a digital-only service to complement the range of sport and to avoid clashes. Previously BBC local radio stations were used. Throughout this period, 5 Live gained several awards including 5 Sony Awards in 2005. The single Gold Award was for its coverage of the 2004 Asian tsunami in the News Story Award category alongside another 4 Silver Awards and 6 nominations. The station also began to further its boundaries with the publication of the Radio 5 Live Sporting Yearbook. In August 2007, BBC Radio 5 Live was given a new logo in line with the rest of the BBC radio network, and a new background design featuring diagonal parallel lines. In 2008 the BBC announced that the station would move to Media City UK in Salford. Broadcast. BBC Radio 5 Live broadcasts in AM on the medium wave frequencies 693 and 909 kHz nationally, with the frequency 990 kHz used at Cardigan Bay. These frequencies had been utilised by BBC Radio 5 and were used by BBC Radio 2 previously. Uniquely to the BBC radio network, it is the only station that is neither purely digital nor broadcast in analogue FM. In addition to the AM output, the station also broadcasts digitally on DAB digital radio, and on television through satellite services such as Sky, cable services such as Virgin Media, DTT services such as Freeview and through IPTV. The station also broadcasts programmes live through the BBC Online website and the BBC iPlayer subsite, which allows programmes to be replayed up to a week after the original broadcast. The service is also available on the Radio Player internet site partially run by the BBC. Before the launch of digital broadcasting, BBC Radio 5 Live had broadcast on analogue satellite with near FM quality. For many years, The station was operated over 4 floors from within the news centre at BBC Television Centre, because of the close connections between the station and BBC News, and the co-location of BBC Sport. However, as part of the corporation's plan to sell off Television Centre, the decision was made in 2008 to move BBC Radio 5 Live to the new broadcast hub at Media City, UK. The move itself began in September 2011 and took 2 months. The new studios are located in Key House over a single floor and consists of 2 studios, large enough for several guests, and a separate studio for large groups. Programming: BBC Radio 5 Live's remit includes broadcasting rolling news and transmitting news as it breaks. The BBC's policy for major breaking news events revolves around a priority list. With UK News, the correspondent first records a generic minute summary. The subsequent priority is to report on Radio 5 Live, then the BBC News Channel, and then any other programmes that are on air. For foreign news, first a generic minute is recorded, then reports are to World Service Radio, then the reporter talks to any other programmes that are on air. BBC Radio 5 Live broadcasts an extremely wide range of sports and covers all the major sporting events, mostly under its flagship sports banner 5 Live Sport. Whilst football commentaries form the majority of live commentaries during the football season, the range of events covered by the station include